It is reported that when U.S. Secretary of State Blinken talked about the Russia-Ukraine conflict again earlier this month, he blamed it on Russia. Blinken said that he can understand that the outside world hopes that Russia and Ukraine will achieve a ceasefire in peace talks, but the United States believes that once a ceasefire occurs, it will mean the legalization of Russia's occupation of Ukrainian land. In other words, the United States does not support the Russia-Ukraine peace talks under the current situation. The conditions for the ceasefire offered by the G7 and some other countries to Russia are: Russia must withdraw its troops unconditionally before talking about peace. Zelensky also stated that Crimea should also be returned. Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations Vasily Nebenzia said in an interview with Sputnik news agency earlier this month that Russia is now ready to consider the solution proposed by Ukraine, but Kiev does not seem interested. Some Western media interpreted this as Putin may be considering withdrawing troops, and speculated that the Russian army may choose the most helpless approach when they cannot attack for a long time, but they still want to keep Crimea. However, Russian President Vladimir Putin recently visited Kherson and the Eastern Army Group of the National Guard of the Luhansk Republic and set foot on this land in person. After a visit to the military, Putin also expressed his attitude, that is, he is very satisfied with the actions of the Russian army in these two areas in eastern Ukraine. After Putin listened to the speech of Air Force Commander Japlinsky, he also particularly praised the Russian army for being on the front line for a long time, and the report submitted is very detailed. This is the first visit by Russia's top leader to the front line here and Putin's second visit to the Donbass, the first being to Mariupol. Western media believe that Putin's move has to a large extent rejected the possibility of Western countries' request for withdrawal with practical actions. Both visits showed that Russia has regarded it as inherent territory, and it is impossible to give it up to the Ukrainian army anyway. For example, the last time he went to Mariupol, the inspection focused on the local new residential areas, social and educational facilities, housing and public utility infrastructure, and the construction of medical institutions, involving many land construction issues, which fully illustrates the Russia's determination to operate here for a long time. It is worth mentioning that this week, Prigozhin, the founder of the Russian Wagner Group, proposed for the first time his support for the government's truce decision, noting that the truce is not the withdrawal of troops. He believes that the battle between Russia and Ukraine in Bakhmut is extremely tragic. If the Russian army wins here, it does not mean that it can win a decisive victory in this war. The loss of Bakhmut is a major blow to the Ukrainian army. So, now, preserving strength is very important for both sides. Russia should stick to what has been achieved. Some commentators believe that there is little hope for Putin to withdraw from Ukraine. The reason is simple. If these international forces had intervened in the peace talks when Russia stated that it had no intention of occupying Ukrainian territory in the early stages of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the hope of the Russian army's withdrawal should have been realized. However, now, the Russian army has paid an unimaginable price in Ukraine, and at the same time, Zelensky firmly disagrees with various truce conditions proposed by Russia. Therefore, at this time, it is impossible for Russia to return with nothing. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of time? That's the truth.